As marketers, even in the age of AI, we have significant power, and it is the power of creation. From a marketing perspective, every project should be an opportunity for creation. I want to create a new feeling. I want to create a new product. I want to create a new service. I want to create a new perception. And then what do I need to do to make that happen? Our job is a job of creation. The cheat code to me is to understand your power, and that is the power of creation.
Hey, everyone. It is Women's History Month, and it's a time for us to celebrate the women who didn't just participate in the future, but those who helped build it. The next era of marketing, technology, AI, and analytics. So welcome to a very special episode of B3 LeadHers. This month is especially meaningful to us because we are also celebrating our 1-year anniversary of B3 LeadHers, a platform that was created to spotlight the women who are shaping the next era of technology. And on B3 LeadHers, we go beyond the highlight reels and simply discussing success stories, but really unpacking the pivotal decisions, the hard lessons, the strategic pivots, and even a few cheat codes that help some of the most accomplished women in business lead, innovate, and stay ahead of change. I'm your host, Barika Phillips Bell, one of the 3 co-founders of B3 Media Solutions. And today we are kicking off our Women's History Month celebration with a leader whose career has consistently lived at the intersection of innovation, strategy, and transformation. Our guest today is Angelia McFarland, and she has spent her career doing something that many leaders actually struggle to do, translating complex technological shifts into clear, actionable strategy. At Dell Technologies, she helped drive more than 1 billion, yes, 1 billion, y'all, in revenue growth. At IBM, she built market-defining campaigns before most companies even understood what digital strategy could become. And long before social media strategy was a standard term in boardrooms, Angelia was already building enterprise frameworks that help companies navigate the emerging digital landscape. But what makes her work so powerful right now is that she hasn't just followed the evolution of technology. She has actually stayed ahead of it. Today, as the founder of EOP Media, Angelia focuses on a challenge many leaders, creators, and businesses are wrestling with: understanding what the shift to AI, Web3, and decentralized systems actually means. Not in theory, but in practice. Because the reality is the next economy isn't coming. It's already here. And too many conversations about it happen at the wrong altitude. Too much hype, not enough application. So Angelia built Stop Feeding the Algorithm, an initiative designed to bring people together, cut through the noise, and help leaders understand how to move with the changes instead of waiting to be disrupted by them. Today, we're going to talk about leadership, foresight, and what it really takes to build influence in the age of intelligent systems. Angelia, welcome to B3 Media LeadHers.
Thank you, Barika, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It was an honor for you to invite me. We met because I invited you to my Stop Feeding the Algorithm session in Los Angeles, which actually went very well. And I'm looking forward to doing my next one in Austin, Texas in April. Thank you for having me, and thank you for having me on International Women's Day.
Exactly.
What a wonderful opportunity to be here for your anniversary during International Women's Day.
I know. I was super excited because throughout your career, you just had this pattern of recognizing major shifts before they became mainstream. And I'm just curious, was there a specific moment or a signal where you realized that the digital economy was about to fundamentally change again, and that leaders weren't really prepared for it?
I don't think it was a single thing in the digital economy. I think it was, as an employee, I quickly realized that we didn't have the power to change our economic fortunes. And prior to the whole technology revolution and the startup revolution, I knew I had to get out. I knew that my economic future and my ability to be a part of the economy didn't lie in a corporate job. And so I would say the thing that changed for me was the first time I started my business. And that was in North Carolina. And well, I'm not going to tell you the year. I can tell you. I no, I don't mind. So it doesn't matter because age is nothing but a number.
That's true.
But it was in 1998. That was my first business, and I came out and I did a consulting business. And each time I've gone back and forth between entrepreneurship and corporate multiple times because I just been for my entire career committed to making that shift. And that very first time, my focus was always on leveraging technology to help other people understand how to leverage technology for success. And each exit from corporate has been about whatever the particular shift was. So my first one was consulting. I learned a lot. My second one was startup, and that was back in the early 2000s before the big startup boom, and it was about creating my own social community. So this was at the beginning of Facebook. So it was about creating a social community targeted on girls, and that's where EOP comes from. EOP is stands for Essence of Pearl. My grandmother's name is Pearl.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and so the EOP Media was my company that was focused on driving, technology. Data is the new media, right? I
Right.
knew that social at the time was going to open up media for everyone and not just the privileged few. And so that's why I called my main company EOP Media. And then I had an Essence of Pearl. And my objective was to create an Essence of Pearl social group for young girls. That was my first business. My second one, I decided to go completely outside of technology. I did a food trailer business in the suburbs of Austin, Texas. We were very successful. We leveraged social to create a market. No one had really been successful in the suburbs prior to the opening of our food trailer because we leveraged social to drive the conversation and to drive the audience. And then my most recent company is around where we're going for the next. So social was the last revolution. This next revolution is AI, blockchain, digital currencies. And so to your point, my goal is to stay on the forefront and help. I've seen how large corporations take the information, and because they have the information and the resources, they package it in ways that benefit them. And my goal is to give people the cheat codes to say, hey, just because they gave you this answer, this is an answer. It is not the answer. And I believe that a lot of corporations present things that they give you as the answer. This is how AI is supposed to work because we paid a lot of money and we created all these people. We paid all these people to create this model, and this is AI. That is their answer. That's not necessarily the only answer for how AI works and for how AI provides opportunities for people.
I love that you say that because, and I really feel like, particularly in African American communities and communities of color, AI is looked at as something that, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to get into that. And I love that you are kind of like saying, yo, this is something that we need to harness and we need to own and create for ourselves because businesses are doing that for themselves. So I guess
Yes.
if you had to think about a like moment, and this is something that I ask all of my guests, what is the one decision that changed everything for you when it comes to AI, blockchain, NFTs, and how we use that?
I think it was when you say decision, it wasn't necessarily my decision. It was in one of the things I've been able to do my entire career. And I think that's what it is one type of marketer. There's a lot of different types of marketers. People think marketing is one thing. I don't think it is. I don't subscribe to that. But I think there are certain types of marketers who can survey the room and who can
Mhm.
identify how things come together and coalesce into different opportunities, different products, right? Different potential challenges. And so as I began to look across all of those technologies, I noticed how they were all integrated. I think for a lot of people, they take them as separate technologies. There's a few that make sense together, like blockchain and cryptocurrencies are together, but most people don't understand that. And so that's one of the things I try to explain in my Stop Feeding the Algorithm. Cryptocurrency became cryptocurrency because of blockchain. So those two made sense together, but how that aligns with AI, how it aligns with possibly AR, VR, how it aligns with all of these other technologies, quantum computing that's coming upon us soon, how those things align together to give you opportunities to not just learn the technology, because I think that's where technology has always preceded economic benefit, whether it was moving from writing on tablets to creating signs, right? I mean, it's not information technology, but that's a different technology.
Technology.
Shipbuilding, right? That was a different
Yeah.
technology that created the ability for global markets. So technology has always preceded economic opportunity. And so my goal is not so much the technology. My goal is in helping people understand how the technology can help them create economic opportunities for themselves. And that's where the marketing piece comes in, right? Marketing is about pulling these technologies in. And my background has always been product, right? So how do we develop some sort of offering, some sort of opportunity for ourselves with this technology that drives us a revenue outcome?
I love how you think about how all of these things work together because you're right. Like, we tend to take things in piecemeal and not put them together to kind of see the whole plan. And it really does take a different mind to kind of like sit and, like a puzzle, put them together and see how all of these things work together to kind of create that economic advancement that you're talking about. Can you flip the script? And I would like to talk about if you could go back in your career and do
Okay.
something different, whether it was a decision or a leadership approach or even a project, what is something that you would not do again?
That question is hard for me because I live with the mantra of no regrets.
Okay.
And I do. So I
That's
live my life
wonderful.
that way. Yeah, I live my life that way. And I mean, I can give you the example, like from a career perspective, it blended over into my career, but it wasn't as obvious because from a career perspective, you have standards and tradition that you're trying to follow, and people say what's right and what's wrong from a career perspective. So I'll tell you from a motherhood perspective, you know how kids go through all these different stages, they're infants, they're toddlers. And when I had my first child, my objective was I don't want to look back and say I missed anything.
Mm,
Right. And so no matter how difficult it was, my two youngest were 13 months apart. They were in diapers together. I mean, it was so, raising kids was like
yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
and a lot of work, but I tried to sit in it and enjoy it because I never wanted to wake up one day and say, I missed it. And so that is kind of how I take my career as whenever I do something,
Mhm.
I sit in it and I enjoy it. And if it doesn't work out, I then analyze why it didn't work out. And a lot of times when I begin to analyze why it didn't work out because it wasn't supposed to work out.
Yeah.
So I would have for things to have worked out differently, I would have had to change who I was. And
Mm.
that was never an option for me. And I think a lot of times people feel I didn't get this job or I didn't get this opportunity. And there were so many jobs and opportunities that required me to become someone I didn't want to be.
Mm.
And that's something I never did. I talk a lot when I mentor people and they say, "Oh, I should have done that." And I was like, "Well, this is who you are. And this is who you are, and this is what it would have required for you to have done that. Oh, I'm never doing that." Then they're never going to hire you.
Yeah.
Right? You have to
Yeah.
become what they want you to become for them to put you in that position. And if you don't want to become that, then losing that position is actually a benefit. But I think we are taught to go after that. And so one of the things you asked earlier about pivot, I think the pivot was, and it was subtle, which is why I didn't hit it. The pivot was, just because they say it's good doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
And I don't have to go after that. I don't have to go after that position. Being in that position doesn't necessarily, what I have to give up to be in that position is not something that I want to do. And so it forced me to say, I still want certain things in my life. So how do I get them? And that has made me take the more difficult road. And the more difficult road, because most people don't take it. That's one of the reasons it's difficult. It's not a well-worn path. And so you're the one who stubs her foot on the rocks. You're the one who falls off the cliff sometimes. And you have to keep getting back up. And so,
but you get there.
But you get there. And I think it took a long time for me to give myself the grace to say, you're not on the well-worn path. That is why it's difficult. And so versus, looking at everybody else who's on the well-worn path, going off and doing these things and getting the accolades and you're like, oh man, I'm a failure. No, you're on a different path that they're not on. And that path requires you to do things that they don't have to do. You are digging up the dirt. You are laying down pavement for people to come behind you. And that is a difficult. Yeah, I mean, you started your own business as a female, Black woman. That's not the well-worn path. It's becoming that though, Barika. What we have done, right, is becoming the well-worn path with these 300,000 Black women who have been laid off from their jobs. There's so much more entrepreneurship. And because we've been path, right? We're here and we've helped to create that path for these other women who say, hey, they closed that door for me. I'm ready to do something else. We're here to say, yeah, let's do it. Oh, doesn't matter if you fell down. Get back up. You could do it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that you took a different approach to that question, because I love that you're like, I don't have a regret, because everything that I wanted to do, I got to do, and I did it my way. And even though that wasn't the way that everybody said that we should do it, it was the way that I did it. And for me, that was good. And because we, as women, we do measure ourselves against, I want this high standard. I want these accolades, because we've been taught to do that. But thinking about it the opposite way, so what? This is my path. This is my journey. It's been fulfilling to me. And if it's fulfilling to you, then it doesn't, like all the other things, those things don't matter. That was very powerful. Well, this is an opportunity where we can take what you've learned and actually drop 3 actionable insights that you would share with other marketing, data, or tech professionals, and they can apply right now to apply these things to their careers. So I like to call them shortcuts to success, or strategies that you have done in your life that have worked for you. And I have to say that number 1 is exactly what you just said, because I think that we don't give ourselves grace. And I think that's an important one. But I would love for you to share like maybe 3 cheat codes that you would like to give away.
Two come to mind, and I think they're right off the bat. And I think they kind of correlate with one another. One is, it depends. As a manager in corporate America, my team would come to me and they would ask me, or product managers would come to me and they would ask me questions, and they would expect an answer. And I would always look at them and I said, well, it depends. And they would say, depends on what? And then I would begin to rail off questions. Who's your customer? What are you trying to accomplish? And I think in marketing, because of the way our profession has evolved from a corporate perspective. So I was in marketing in large corporate organizations from the beginning of my career. And so I've watched it evolve. And because of the way that it's evolved, when people come to marketing to ask for things, they ask for things just out of the blue a lot of times. So they've done some work. They've been given a strategy. They've been asked to meet a goal, right? And they come to you and they say, I need a spec sheet that's gonna do XYZ and I'm going to be able to give it to 200 people. And can you do that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. It depends. What are your objectives? Why did you pick this audience? Is this the best audience? And a lot of times, so depending on who you're talking to, it creates a really great relationship within the organization. And it creates a better understanding of what it is we bring to the table as marketers. I think too often what marketers bring to the table is minimized. And because it's International Women's Day, I'm going to say what I believe is the reason for that is because marketers traditionally were the women, and especially in tech companies, right? That was where the female talent was. And so what we bring to the table has been minimized over the years. And I think that it depends attitude, where you come to me and you ask me for something and I don't just give it to you. I need to understand where this is coming from. That solidifies my value. And it gives me the opportunity to even further solidify my value and solidify the relationship. So I would say that's one cheat code, because that's helped me develop some phenomenal relationships across my career. The other cheat code was given to me by, and I tell this story a lot, and so people who've heard me before, people are probably sick of hearing the story, but it also was a pivot, but it was more of an insight than a pivot. It didn't cause me to do anything different, but it helped me to understand my power. I was a young woman, Black woman in a large corporate environment at IBM, mostly white people, almost always the only Black woman in the room. Every once in a while, there were others. And so I was working on a project and I had been asked to ghostwrite an article for one of our executives. And so I did all the research. I wrote the article. I was young. I was probably less than 30. It's probably 27, 28. Wrote the article, took it to him, and it came back and looked like he had bled all over it, just red paint everywhere, right? And so as a young person I'm just distraught, right? I'm like, oh my, and angry, distraught and mad, right? How dare he write through all of my good work that I did? And so there was this older white gentleman who worked in the PR department. I tell everybody, I don't even remember his name. He has no idea the impact that he had on me in this one meeting. And he was an Ogilvy man, right? So he had worked for Ogilvy and Mather. He came to IBM at the tail end of his career, maybe post-retirement. And he had become kind of a mentor to me. So whenever I would write anything, or I would go to him and get advice. And so I brought it to him, and I was bemoaning what had happened. I was so frustrated and everything. And so he looks at me and he says, well, where was he when the paper was white? And so at that time, like when he said it, I was like, what did you say to me? Like, because at first I thought it was like this racial remark. What do you mean? And then, and I slowed down and I thought about what he said. And we just continued the conversation, right? And I just kind of dwelled on that for the rest of that project, because really what he was trying to tell me is the act of creation. Right? The act of creation. We didn't have AI back then, right? This was all coming out of my brain. The act of creation is power. What somebody else had taken the time to create, that's not the power move, right? The power move is taking the time to create something, doing the research to create something. And so as marketers, even in the age of AI, we have significant power, and it is the power of creation. And I think in some departments, we focus too much on repeatable processes, because that's the manufacturing way. How can you create a repeatable process and do it again and again and again? But from a marketing perspective, every project should be an opportunity for creation, right? I want to create a new feeling. I want to create a new audience. I want to create a new product. I want to create a new service. I want to create a new perception. And then what do I need to do to make that happen? And so that job, our job, is a job of creation. And so, I mean, the cheat code to me is to understand your power, and that is the power of creation.
Creating. I love it.
Yes.
I love
and
that.
Then I'll take the gimme. And the last one is give yourself grace.
Yes. No, It's not said often enough, but I think that every time it is heard, it gives one pause to think, you know what? I've done a lot and I'm going to give myself grace. We need to hear it continually.
Yes.
So this is actually my favorite part of the segment, and it's basically we pull a question from the Leaders Bowl, and it has a bunch of different questions, and we allow you to tell us to stop. It's a wheel. Okay. So this question is called underrated or overrated, and it's a lightning round. I'm gonna give you a couple of buzzwords, marketing trends, tools, things like that, and you are going to say underrated or overrated. And we have a minute, and you have to give. And I need one sentence reason why it's either underrated or overrated.
You know, marketers can't say anything in one sentence, Barika.
I know, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try. It'll be fun.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give it the good old college try.
Okay, let me know when you're ready, and I'll set the timer.
I'm ready.
Okay, and go. AI generated content, underrated or overrated?
Oh, AI generated content is overrated because back to what we said earlier, it lacks the creative element. It is an amalgamation of everyone's creativity.
Cool.
That was one sentence.
That was one sentence. Great job. Okay, next one is live TikTok advertising. Underrated or overrated?
I think it is overrated. I don't think it is very effective for the medium. I think live advertising is effective. I don't think live advertising on TikTok is effective.
Okay. NFTs, underrated or overrated?
Underrated. NFTs have the potential to be a key factor in the shift to the new economy if we all understand how to leverage them in our businesses.
Okay. And brand collaborations, underrated or overrated?
I think brand collaborations are underrated. I think the potential issue is that they're not always done strategically. I think a brand collaboration is always great. And I think the more businesses that we have, you're going to need more and more brand collaborations to be able to be heard.
To be heard. Yes. I love it. All right. So before we wrap up, we have a new tradition on LeadHers in 2026, and I've asked each new guest to leave a question for the next LeadHer who will sit in her seat. You don't know who she is, and she doesn't know who asked it, but it's just a way for women leaders to keep the conversation going across industries and leaders and generations. What part of your leadership voice took the longest for you to trust? And how did learning to trust it change the way you show up in rooms where decisions are being made?
It took the longest to develop my mentor voice. I always saw myself as being the mentee. And even when I was managing people, and as I had some young employees, and they would come to me, or they would be in conversations, and they would tell people, Angelia is my mentor. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not your mentor. I'm not old enough to be a mentor. Okay. So the mentorship voice was the one that was the most difficult, or took the longest for me to accept. And it was partially that I didn't see myself as being a mentor. It was also partially that once I finally accepted the voice, I realized how much I was getting, how much I get from all of my relationships. So to me, the way corporate presents the mentor relationship is that I'm the mentor, I'm the smart one, you come to me for advice and information. I've developed my mentor relationships to be bi-directional, omnidirectional, right? And so I learned just as much and if I'm not, I feel like it's not a good mentor relationship. I'm learning just as much from my mentees as I'm learning from myself. And so I think the other reason it took a long time for it to develop is I was looking at it from a traditional corporate perspective. And when I pulled in this matriarchal culture that sits inside of many of us, and applied that to what it means to be a mentor
Mhm.
and took some ownership to make it what I wanted it to be, I was able to begin to step in it. And so how does that change the way that I show up? It's changed the way that I show up in the sense that I now say the thing that needs to be said. And
Mm.
if it's not accepted in that room, I take it to another room. So before, I would not say the thing because I was worried about everybody else's feelings.
Mm.
Now, I say the thing. If you don't receive it, then that means that it was the wrong room. And I just save it for another room. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of times we spend too much time trying to help people, trying to tell people the way we think they need to do things. And that's a lot of time and effort. And many times they don't appreciate it and or they're not capable. That's why they're not listening.
Mm.
And so save your energy, effort, and provide that information to someone who wants to do something with it because that person will show up.
I love that. You know, you never think about how, like, because I also worked in corporate for a very long time before I decided to create B3, and that there is that. But I guess when I created my company, I was just kind of instantly the mentor. And it was like,
Yeah.
no, like I have to agree that I learned just as much from the people that I work with, and that I would be their mentor than I hope that they do for me, because every day I'm like, oh, I did not know that, and I like having that because
Yes.
I feel like it keeps you grounded. It also keeps you knowledgeable, and there's this exchange of information that you have that helps to bond you. So that's exactly why I wanted to create LeadHers, is because I wanted to make sure lessons like what you shared today aren't locked in our heads or in boardrooms, but actually are shared with other women, because we're building that next generation of leadership and they need to be able to pass these
Yes.
things along. So that was incredible. I really appreciate you, Angelia, for sharing your insights, your leadership journey, your wisdom, and your cheat codes. I know that I walked away with something that I can use, and I'm sure that everybody listening will. And where can people learn more about you? I know you have your conference that's coming up in Austin, but where can people learn more about you and find you online?
EOPmedia.com is my website. When you go to EOP Media, right now, the way my website is structured, the main page is my consulting page. And so I'm in the process of making some changes. So by the time you hear this, it's still going to be my consulting page. It's for small businesses. It is for deep tech. I do consulting for deep tech startups, and I help them build systems around their products to drive revenue. I'm a proponent of product-led growth versus trying to go out and get a VC. And so those are the types of startups that I work with. Not to say that they don't go get VC money, but I really focus on helping them be strong on the product side so they can grow on the product side. And then and if you're at my website, at the very top in the navigation, it says stop feeding the algorithm. If you click on that page, that'll take you down the consumer side where I'm building this audience for the next economy. And it starts with stop feeding the algorithm. Stop feeding the algorithm is where we question assumptions, where we sit down and we talk about what's wrong with the current economy. We talk about these technologies and how they could potentially build a new economy. And in most of the sessions, actually in every session so far, we end up gaming a potential solution for different industries. In Los Angeles, of course, it makes sense. It was an entertainment solution. In Atlanta, it was a marketing solution. In Austin, coming up in April, I'm not sure what it's
Who
going to be.
knows?
But after that, you move into the agency collective, which is where we operationalize the work that we do and stop feeding the algorithm. And we get people into wallets, mobile wallets, cold wallets. We show you how to use them. We potentially help your business to become token capable, able to accept tokens, depending on where you choose to invest in the agency collective. My goal is to get individuals capable of leveraging a tokenized website and get small businesses enabled for tokenization.
Wow.
And so But that's the things that EOP Media is doing in the marketplace right now.
Well, I'm fascinated by it, and I already told you when you come back to Los Angeles, because I'll be here for a while, I definitely will be in attendance because I already have some ideas that I want to run past you regarding kind of like blockchain and putting those things together. But if you guys have loved this conversation, please make sure that you like and subscribe to B3 LeadHers as we drop new episodes every month. Please don't forget to leave a comment and a challenge. Send us your questions. And who knows, your comment might be the next one pulled from the LeadHer Bowl. Make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all at B3 Media Solutions. And stay tuned for more inspiring stories from the top female minds in marketing, tech, and analytics. Until the next time, keep leading boldly.